everybody, and welcome back to another Modern Horizons 2 draft video. I think this is a very quick and clear Dragon's Rage channeler pick. You could argue I could take Greed and be pretty heavily into black when there's not a lot of black cards in this pack. Maybe I could kind of cut the signal. But I think Dragon's Rage channeler represents a much stronger pick because it is a much stronger card in the early game. I could also take like Amoeba or something, but let's take the one drop that gets huge. Okay. So I like Lightning Spear. Arcbound Javelinier or Arcbound Tracker could also be good. So the Tracker's nice because it's an artifact creature. Lightning Spear is nice just because it's an artifact. You could give something like Dragon's Rage Channeler Trample with Lightning Spear, and if you can turn on Delirium fast enough, you could do some pretty nasty stuff. The alternative is we actually go with like the Delirium card, which is Scuttletide. And this card is good if you have like multiples of it and a lot of ways to turn on Delirium. But I think I like the more aggressive creature, so I'm going to take it. Okay, in this pack, there is a Lightning Spear, a Mere Scrapling, Goblin Trap Runner, and Revolutionist. Dress Down is a cantrip that is also an enchantment that sacks itself. I think I'm going to stay in red for the minute, and I'm going to take Lightning Spear. I'm not a huge fan of Trap Runner, basically because I don't want to reduce my top end down to a literal coin flip. So I'm going to take Lightning Spear. Alright, I really like seeing Unholy Heat. It's a very, very strong card in the red deck. Flame Blitz is basically a Think Twice that adds enchantment to your list of spell types for Delirium is what I'm trying to say. But I'll take Unholy Heat. A second Dragon's Rage Channeler in pack 1. Cabal Coffers, I love you, but you don't work in this limited format, at least not in any way that I traditionally understand. So we'll take a second Dragon's Rage Channeler. So let's see, we have an Arcbound Slasher. There's Fast and Furious, which we can play because it's both instant and sorcery to go to the grave. We could take Battle Plan because it's a basic land cycling enchantment. I kind of like Slasher though because it represents top end like haste damage and it keeps us in mono red. I wouldn't mind a Hard Evidence, but if Hard Evidence comes around or Scuttletide comes around, then I will take them probably. Another Lightning Spear or another Slasher. I mean, I really like the Lightning Spears. The Tracker and Slasher are nice, but this is also... It's a very slow lightning strike, but it can give our creatures trample, and it can make Dragon's Rage Channeler better. Because like playing Dragon's Rage Channeler on turn 1, Lightning Spear on turn 2, getting the Surveil trigger has got to be good. I'll take the Slasher. I think I've got to have the... I gotta have the creatures to an extent. Okay, so Foul Watcher is a Surveil creature. It's evasive, it's on 2. But there's also Fire and Ice. Now, we can just play Fire. Both sides are an instant, so it doesn't necessarily help with Delirium in any way of being multiple card types. But it is a very versatile spell, so I'm going to take it. It can go to face in the absolute worst case scenario. I don't think this is a Galvanic Relay deck. Glimpse of Tomorrow, I don't think this... I don't know if you could actually build a limited deck around Glimpse of Tomorrow. I mean, maybe you can. Maybe you can draft something insane, but it probably requires a lot of setup. I'm going to take Amoeba. It's a decent flyer with a decent body, and it has a discard outlet so we can get... Sorry, I had to sneeze. Scuttletide came around, we'll take Scuttletide. So Dress Down is an enchantment. We can take Scrapling, we can take Rustveil Bridge if we think we're going to splash, or we want to have artifact lands. I don't think getting an artifact on the grave is going to be that difficult. I'm going to take Dress Down, but I don't know if I'm actually going to play it, so I'm going to put that in the sideboard. I don't really like Lashclaw. Flame Blitz, we can play... Like, if our opponent actually has a Planeswalker, Flame Blitz is pretty strong against that, but at worst, I'm looking at this like a Think Twice that builds Delirium. I will take another Tracker because it has Menace. And I will take Battle Plan because it's an enchantment that basic land cycles. And we get the Lightning Spear because no one respects Lightning Spear. Okay. In Pack 2, Rishadan Dockhand, I think can be strong, but I don't think on average it's that strong. We are kind of low to the ground and quite aggressive, so the potential for this to keep our opponent off of mana is pretty big. But it's not like Port where you can play it and use it immediately. I think I'm going to take Storm God's Oracle because it's an enchantment creature. We are looking to be red-blue. Like, I wouldn't mind a Gouged Zealot, and I wouldn't mind like a Foundry Helix if I could splash it. But Storm God's Oracle is a very strong creature. It's a card that I've underrated throughout this entire draft league. So we'll take the Oracle. Okay. I do need a sorcery or two that I can actually stick in the grave, but I don't think Inevitable Betrayal is it. Spreading Insurrection is kind of interesting because it can just be a 5-mana threaten, and we could take our opponent's best creature. This is a 5-mana 4/4 flying dragon that sinkholes something when it enters, or stone rains. I mean, I probably should take it. It's a 5-mana 4/4 flyer. There's not a lot of lands that it hits in this format. I can't think of any off the top of my head, other than maybe Urza's Saga, but we'll take it. Chef's Kiss is hilariously fun. We've used that to pretty great effect versus, or in another limited draft that we did. This is probably not a Captain Ripley Vance deck. It's going to be difficult to cast a whole bunch of spells all in the same turn. Said and Done is both an instant and a sorcery, so we could take it. I think Chef's Kiss is stronger, so I'm going to take Chef's Kiss. It's also, like, kind of trolly. That was my alarm to wake up this morning. I was up late last night because I recorded the Squirrels video that I was very displeased with. And so I did not sleep all that much. I've got a lot to do today, so I'm up super early trying to get this done. Fast and Furious, I think we can take just for the split on card types. Galvanic Relay is not really a card we want to play in this deck. We already have a Flame Blitz. I don't think we need another one. If I was to get any off-color bridge lands, I would probably want a white one, like white-red or white-blue. But yeah, we'll take Fast and Furious. Flame Rift. So Flame Rift, we can get a lot of reach. Strike it Rich is a sorcery that we can play early that can fix for us. So like it would let us play like Storm God's Oracle on 2, or Aeromoeba on 3, something like that. But Flame Rift represents a huge amount of reach. And somebody pointed out to me in one of the last drafts I took Flame Rift, I didn't actually, like I completely missed lethal. We have almost no tokens right now, but Junk Winder is like crazy powerful spell. I get blown out by this card every time my opponent plays it because I just have no answer for it. I just have no tokens. So I'm going to take Flame Rift. I have a bunch of instants because I have Unholy Heat, I have Chef's Kiss, I have Fire and Ice, and then I have Fast and Furious. So I guess not a lot, but enough. Mount Valus Manticore, almost said Minotaur again. I don't know what's up with that. Lose Focus is a counterspell. I think I'm going to take the Mount Valus card. Zabaz, the Glimmer Wasp. We do have a few modular creatures. It's another aggressive 1-drop. We can't give it flying, but it's sort of a sack outlet for our modular creatures. We could take the Underworld Cookbook, or we could take a Crypt Keeper. We don't have that many artifact creatures. We have like Arcbound, Tracker. I think it still means we take Zabaz. And if we can get like a white off-color land, we'll take it. Like Razortide Bridge. Okay, so Hard Evidence actually I think trumps Razortide Bridge because we need a sorcery. Like we have Flame Rift, but that's it. We have a Flame Rift and we have Fast and Furious. So I'm going to take Hard Evidence. I'm kind of sad to pass an Arcbound Slasher, but it is what it is. I'm going to take Gouged Zealot. It's an excellent payoff. If you play against the Squirrels deck and they don't have the Squirrel Lord, Gouged Zealot completely obliterates them. I don't know that I can play a third Lightning Spear. I can try. Spreading Insurrection might be the card to take, because like late game, if we just end up with a couple of random, like our 1-mana spells, we can just cast it and Spreading Insurrection, take their whole board and win. So maybe we take that and have it as like the top end thing. Said and done, buying back a powerful instant or sorcery is always tempting. I'm trying to think of what we could get here. We could get back Unholy Heat, we could get back Hard Evidence, we could get back Flame Rift for reach. It's probably worth. I don't think I'm going to play Flame Blitz, because I'm not going to have that many instances where I will be able to actually cast it, and cycling it does not count for like Storm Count for Spreading Insurrection. I probably will take it though, because the other cards in that pack aren't great. Aeromoeba's fine. Tavern Scoundrel, probably not for us. Galvanic Relay. Although, I'm now realizing that if you had a bunch of Tavern Scoundrels and you had the Junk Winder, that would be pretty cool. So a little bit of a hard pick here. There's Batterbone, which giving stuff lifelink is huge, but I don't think I can pass on Holy Heat. The rate on this removal spell is just insane. Delirium is not that hard to come by. So we also have 2 Dragon's Rage Channelers. Wow, Priest of Fell Rites. There's a Strike It Rich. Arcbound Shikari is kind of good, but not super good here. I think I am going to take the Gargadon, because this card is actually really good. If you can suspend this on turn 2, you're going to do a bunch of damage on turn 6. Like, a lot. I don't know how many Gargadons I would play in a deck, but the answer is probably more than one. Aethersworn Sphinx is not a card we can play. I will take Recalibrate. Or I could take Lucid Dreams. The problem with Lucid Dreams is it's double blue, and we are a very heavy red deck. We also need more creatures than we have, because we only technically have 14. It's like 14, maybe 15, with a half a creature between Hard Evidence and Scuttletide, and that's if we're playing Zavaz, which I'm not even sure we are. Recalibrate, we can draw a card off of, because we have like a ton of discard outlets in the form of Aeromoeba. Scuttletide, we can cycle Flame Blitz and then Recalibrate. I think I need the draw spell, because otherwise I'm going to run out of gas. I really don't like it because of our mana not being more supportive of double color costs other than red. But like, by turn 5, we might be able to have double blue. It shouldn't be that difficult, question mark. Especially if we're like actually drawing cards and scrying and stuff. So I can either take Tracker number 3, which I do like because of Menace, or I can take Foul Watcher and have another creature on 2. Slag Strider is not going to fit in this deck because we don't have enough artifacts. And a 7-mana 3/3 is not great. So Foul Watcher is another early flyer. Yeah, I think we take the bird. Blazing Rootwalla is a decent madness creature. We do have a few ways to discard that could matter. It is aggressive. Like, we could just have a bunch of 1-drops. So Shiny is not that great because we don't have that many tokens. We have some number because we have a Hard Evidence, but in between the multitude of sneezes I just had, I think I've decided on Hard Evidence. Because we have instants, enchantments, and sorceries early, so I think I would want another sorcery. Okay, Mind Collapse, Foul Watcher, or Silver Bluff Bridge. I really have enough playables, and I have a decent amount of removal. I have 2 Unholy Heats, 2 Lightning Spears. Chef's Kiss is kind of removal. We have Fire and Ice, and to an extent, Spreading Insurrection. This gets a land into the grave. The alternative is I take Silver Bluff Bridge, because Silver Bluff Bridge fixes our mana a bit. I think I take Mind Collapse or Foul Watcher, because our mana is not going to be that tough. I only have 15 creatures, and Foul Watcher is a pretty decent Delirium payoff, so I'm going to take the Foul Watcher. So, second Gargadon or Mental Journey. Mental Journey is not a bad card. I'm actually considering playing Mental Journey in Battle of Wits, because the ability to basic land cycle early or cash in for a bunch of cards later is the kind of thing that Battle of Wits Control really wants to do. But I think I can take a second Gargadon here. I think that's better than some of the other like middle-of-the-road creatures I have in this deck. I don't think the repeatable Investigate on Floodhound beats out a potential Suspend Gargadon on turn 2. Scrapling is a really easy creature to get in the grave. So it's a creature and an artifact. Yeah, I probably need to take that. I don't like Sea Drake. I do like Tracker. And we have a bunch of cheap spells. Tracker gets bigger if you cast 2 spells in the same turn. So I actually think Tracker's going to be pretty good in this deck. I do like Strike It Rich as an early sorcery to dump into the grave. It would let us play a Tracker on turn 2. It would let us play a Storm God's Oracle on turn 2. It's technically fixing. Random card. Random card in the sideboard. Sure. Sideboard. Scrappling. So this is the most 1-drops I think I've drafted across any draft. But it looks like Blue-Red Delirium was relatively open. Which I'm okay with. I'm okay with drafting the open lane. I think we get a Floodhound. Okay. So we have a lot of cuts to make. We need to cut some creatures, but I think we need to keep a relatively good number of creatures. I think we can cut 1 Slasher, Floodhound, and a Scrapling at minimum. Then we need to cut quite a bit of non-creatures, but not so much that we can't actually get all of our card types in the grave. I definitely want 1 Flame Blitz in the deck. And this is basically just 2 mana Think Twice. It's not actually a 1-drop. Unless in the odd scenario where my opponent actually has a Planeswalker, then it matters. Fast and Furious, I don't know if I want to play a Wrath, but at the same time, Fast, it becomes Divination if you cast it on your turn when your hand is empty, or on your opponent's end step when this was the last card in hand, so it's not bad. Said and Done is both a sorcery and an instant. Fire and Ice is actually a 2-drop. Battle Plan, we will probably only basic land cycle. I don't think I need Strike It Rich because I have 2 Hard Evidence, both of which are sorceries. So I have instant sorcery, artifact. Oh man, I have so many cuts to make, it's not even funny. Okay. So, let's go down to 16 creatures. If I'm looking at my deck, what are my 2 worst creatures? It's probably Zabaz, because we're not red-white, and we don't have that many artifact creatures. Like, we have some trackers. This is just a 5-mana 4/4 flyer. It's an air elemental for us. And, like, any non-basic land my opponent has in this format, odds are is indestructible, because the only non-basic lands I can think of in this format that aren't indestructible are like the Yavimaya Cradle of Growth, Power Depot, Urza's Saga, and I think there's like 1 or Cabal Coffers, but if my opponent is playing Cabal Coffers, they're either an idiot or they have an ungodly powerful deck. And Cabal Coffers does not decrease the cost of Obsidian Charmon, neither does Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. I like Slasher for being top-end haste. I like Aeromoeba because it's a 4/2 flyer when you want it to be. Gouged Zealot's a Delirium payoff. The trackers get worse the more of them I cut. Same with the Slasher gets worse if I cut the trackers. I think I'm going to cut 1 creature. And if I'm cutting 1 creature out of all of this, it's going to be an Aeromoeba. Okay, so now I need to cut some number of non-creatures. I really like Lightning Spear. I'm going to try running just 1. We have a lot of instants, because we have Fire and Ice, Unholy Heats, Chef's Kiss, 1/2 of Said and Done, and the other half of Fast and Furious. I think, so like, almost our entire like low end of this deck dodges Fast and Furious, because in theory we have Delirium, so maybe that increases the value of this card, but I was looking at it and I'm like, a lot of our creatures don't fly, so maybe we shouldn't be playing Fast and Furious. The front half of it's nice, but we have so much other stuff. I need to somehow cut 7 cards. Maybe I do only play 1 Gargadon? I like having 2 because it increases the chances of suspending Gargadon on turn 2, which is the strongest thing you can do with the Gargadon. Spreading Insurrection, because we have 4 1-mana spells. Well, we actually have 7 if you count Mere Scrappling. How hard is it going to be to get a artifact in the grave? We have Lightning Spear. We have a bunch of artifact creatures. 4 to be exact. And then we have Scrappling. Maybe we don't need Scrappling? Like, putting a 1/1 counter on Dragon's Rage Channeler and making a 4/4 flyer is nice. Especially when this is 2 halves of Delirium. But I don't think we need the scrapling. Hard evidence is like non-aggressive creatures unless Scuttletide gets activated. So for enchantments we can get in the grave, it's like Flame Blitz, Storm God's Oracle, Mount Valus Manticore, and Battle Plan. That's actually not bad. That's a lot of different enchantments we can dump into the grave. Maybe we don't need Battle Plan, because Storm God's Oracle we're probably going to kill off as removal at some point, and Flame Blitz cycles pretty easily. But Battle Plan cycles and gets a land every time. Alright, I think I'm going to get rid of Battle Plan. I still need to cut 5 cards. I'm terrible at this too. I like Hard Evidence because it's a sort of delayed cantrip with the clue that it gives you. It can also be helpful in offsetting aggressive strategies. Alright, I can foresee situations where Spreading Insurrection will not be good. So I think I'm going to cut Spreading Insurrection. If my opponent plays a bunch of high-value creatures, and they're sort of like a mid-range deck, if we're having trouble getting around their creatures, I can bring it back in. Like if they're playing, I don't know, Sarah Emissary. Alright, we need to cut between 3 and 4 more cards. I'm also a little bit paranoid about this deck because the last time I drafted Delirium, I had a really hard time turning on Delirium. And so I was trying to widen the number of cards and card types that I was picking. I might have to cut like an Arcbound Tracker. I just really like the fact that it synergizes with casting multiple spells, and we have so many cheap spells. Maybe I don't need the Slasher. Like maybe having this as top end is not good enough because a 5-mana 5/5. Alright, we'll cut Slasher, we'll cut a Gargadon. That brings us down to like 15 creatures, 10 non-creatures, and that's only if Hard Evidence you count as a creature. The creature count on this seems pretty low to me. I guess without... I'm going to bring the other Gargadon back, and I'm going to take out a Tracker. And then I really think I need to find one more non-creature spell to cut. And maybe it's the second Hard Evidence. I just really like it because it's an early sorcery. We have no madness effects, actually. And we have other discard outlets. It should not be this difficult. I've been, like... This is going to be a huge portion of this video, is just me, like, agonizing over trying to build a good deck. But I don't want to cut it because it's got... because it's got 2 card types. I guess I'm going to cut Said and Done. We have a bunch of early sorceries between Hard Evidence and Flame Rift. We have a bunch of early instants between Unholy Heat and Fire and Ice. So having an instant and sorcery on a single card does not strike me as absolutely necessary. And then we'll play 16 lands. And I'm going to go 10 and 6. Because while we have some blue, and we do need double blue for Lucid Dreams to kind of reload. Maybe I should even go as far as to go 9 and 7, but we'll see how hard our mana is. I'll see you guys in round 1. I'm sorry that took so long. Alright, round 1, we will be on the play. Yeah, this looks good. We got something to do on turn 1, something to do on turn 2, and then we'll see where we go. So, lead on Hard Evidence. Put a sorcery in the grave. I like that Storm Count shows up. Even though we don't have any Storm cards in the main deck. I don't know if that's showing up because we have something in the sideboard or our opponent's playing Storm cards. I think it only shows up when you have Storm cards, somewhere in your supposed 75. Pass the turn. We untap and draw Dragon's Rage Channeler. So, suspend Gargadon and pass the turn. So next turn we'll probably play Dragon's Rage Channeler into a Lightning Spear and see where our Surveil takes us. I'm going to swing 0 to send a message. That is wholly incorrect and you should never do that. but it's kind of a taunt. Like, if my opponent was playing white, like, I would have just opened myself up to a Piercing Rays. Although, Piercing Rays, in and of itself, I would never use on a 0-3 crab. Unless, of course, I knew my opponent was playing Mono Scuttletides, the draft deck. Then maybe. So Gargadon ticking down to 3. We draw another Gargadon. Play a mountain. We'll just pass... Suspend another Gargadon and play Dragon's Rage Channeler. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a mountain. Plays a Scurry Oak. Okay, we've got multiple Gargadons ticking down. Which, I'll be honest, feels pretty good. I am going to Unholy Heat to kill that immediately. Fire and Ice. I am trying to get to more card types in the grave. Although I would like to draw Fire and Ice. I think I should put it in the grave here. Because if we can turn on Delirium this turn... Actually, we can't. Because if I cast Lightning Spear, I'm not... I would only get one Surveil trigger, which is what I'm doing here. I will put a land in the grave. Go to combat. Hit our opponent for 1. They go to 19. They untap. They play a Tireless Provisioner and a land, which will give them a treasure. It's really interesting to see this card. Because one comparison that I just thought about is this card is a lot like Lotus Cobra. Lotus Cobra gives you the mana one-shot like Tireless Provisioner does, but Tireless Provisioner's mana persists through turns. And you can choose what color of mana later. And if you don't need the mana, you can turn it into life. So, play a mountain, cast Lightning Spear, Surveil. Land, I think, is going to go into the grave. Let's equip the Watcher, go to combat, hit them for 2. I think my opponent is probably playing the Storm Archetype. It's kind of tough when your opponent starts playing multiple colors to identify why they're playing those colors in this format. Because if it's not obviously the artifact strategy, like it could be tokens, but I think it's the Storm deck is what they're trying to play here. Or they could just be ramping. They play an Orchard Strider, they attack for 3. We'll take 3. Alright, commence the March of the Elephants. Cast Gargadon. We draw a mountain. Crack a clue. Play a mountain. And I think we are going to enable Delirium. Go to combat. Attack for a lot. Opponent is going to trade and take 3 over the top there, so they're taking 8 damage and going to 9 this turn. And we have a second Gargadon coming off Suspend next turn, and we're swinging for half of their life total in the air. So opponent needs some pretty good removal spells, I think, to actually navigate this. Prophetic Titan does count as a removal spell. They kill Dragon's Rage Channeler. We untap, Gargadon comes off Suspend. And we draw. Okay, they can't beat that Gargadon. Cool. So my opponent is Tamer. I think we have an appropriate amount of removal. I kind of want another artifact in the deck, so I'm thinking about maybe adding a Lightning Spear. But I'm not 100% sure, so I think I'm just going to run it back. Okay. We have Suspend Gargadon on 2, and then Storm God's Oracle on turn 3. Or Tracker, depending on which we deem more appropriate. If we could draw a 1-drop here, that would be the best. Okay, we did not. Play a mountain, pass the turn. The good news is we do have double blue, so we don't have to worry about casting any of our spells this game. We will have the mana for them, whatever we draw. Unholy Heat's kind of nice. Suspend Gargadon, pass the turn. Opponent plays a mountain into a Scurry Oak. Gargadon ticking down. We draw an island. Play a mountain, and I can either develop the board or I can kill this oak. And I think I'm going to kill the oak because them going really wide is one potential way they could beat us. Especially with a Cheddar Spitter, so... Gargadon still ticking down. We're continuing to draw only lands. Play Storm God's Oracle. Opponent activates Chitter Spitter, gets a squirrel. So they're definitely a token deck. The basic land cycle Orchard Strider, getting a mountain. Then they play their own Storm God's Oracle. Gargadon ticking down to 1. You know, I'd hoped we would draw things that aren't lands. Go to combat. Attack. Opponent does block. So pump. Pump. Trade. Presumably we each just shoot each other's faces. Yep. Then go to second main. Play Arcbound Tracker. Pass the turn. Okay. They untap. They have nothing to sack to Chitter Spitter. They play a Tireless Provisioner. Okay. So now they'll have a stream of tokens they can sack to Chitter Spitter. Gargadon coming off Suspend. I would like to draw some removal here. Okay, we draw Lightning Spear. That counts as removal. So play a mountain, play Lightning Spear, counter on Tracker, go to combat, attack, attack. I actually should have equipped the Tracker. Opponent makes a squirrel. We're going to Lightning Spear the Provisioner. So this way they can't block the Tracker. Okay. They untap. They do not sack their treasure because they need the blue mana to cast something. Junk Winder. Okay, here's that part of the game where we just get absolutely screwed. So we untap. We draw Scuttletide. Play Scuttletide. Man, I should have taken Junk Winder because I didn't even think about Scuttletide. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They sack a squirrel to power up Chitter Spitter. And they cast Wave Sifter so they can tap 2 permanents. Then they go to combat. They attack for 8. So Scuttletide, ditch a land. Ditch a land. Block their 3/3 with a 1/4. Take 5, go to 12. When it plays Yavi Maya, Cradle of Growth, we untap. We draw Dragon's Rage Channeler. So play Dragon's Rage Channeler. You say, but my opponent can tap it to pass the turn. I should have taken Junk Winder. I completely misevaluated that card in this draft. I was like, oh, this card's crazy, but I don't have enough tokens. It was like, I have a repeatable token engine. Hard Evidence is crazy with that card. Like, I looked at it as uncastable because it's like 7 mana, but it has affinity. I have no idea what was in my mind at that moment. I just know it was incorrect. When it goes to combat, they attack, and for some reason do not attack with the... Why? Okay, no, it can't block. I was like, why is this saying it can block there? We lose a crab, untap. We draw Lucid Dreams. Draw 5 cards. Surveil. We do have a creature in the grave. I don't think Aeromoeba actually does much, though. So we're going to draw 5 cards. I think we need an Unholy Heat to stay alive, because we have Delirium now. So if we can kill Junk Winder with Unholy Heat, we throw our other creatures under the bus. So if I Unholy Heat Junk Winder, they have 15 power on board. I can stop 8 of it. We would take 7 and go to 2. Does my opponent have a counterspell? Is their last card lose focus? They are still in the tank about this. We did draw Unholy Heat. So play a mountain. Kill the Junk Winder. Counter on Tracker. We get to Surveil. Kind of don't want an island. We have 7 mana, so we can cast the most expensive spell in our deck. And we can even make another token to block, so we don't even have to take as much damage as initially projected. Opponent makes a squirrel. It's a 4/4. They sack it, so they make their squirrels bigger. Faithless Salvaging rebounds, so they discard the last card in their hand, which is an air amoeba, and they draw a new card. They play a Burdened Aerialist. They make a treasure. They go to combat and they attack for 18. So Scuttletide, ditch a mountain. And we'll chump here, here. We would be taking 8 and going to 1. I think we've got to risk taking or going to 1 here. Because what we can do is we can play this Mount Valus Manticore, shoot Burdened Aerialist, and swing unrestricted and kill our opponent. Alright, we got there. It was a little harrowing, but we did it. Unholy Heat, probably one of the best removal spells in this format, so I will see you guys in round 2. Alright, round 2, and we will be on the play. A little awkward because we have 2 separate things we want to do on turn 2, but we know which one we will. I'd like to draw 1 drop to help fill the curve on turn 3. Specifically, I'd like to draw Dragon's Rage Chandler because we don't have a second island. So I can't Hard Evidence and Foul Watcher on turn 2. But we're going to lean on a mountain, pass the turn. Opponent plays a mountain, draw another mountain, play an island, suspend Gargadon, pass the turn. Opponent plays a swamp, plays a Viashino Lashclaw. Gargadon ticking down to 3. Now because my opponent is red-black, there's actually a really strong chance they need this Viashino Lashclaw to enable Madness so they can play their like Hellmongrel or something on 3. I'm actually really tempted to cast Fire and Ice using the Fire mode, but I think what I'm going to do is play Arcbound Tracker this turn because it's slightly more efficient use of mana, and we're going to try and double spell with Foul Watcher and Fire and Ice next turn. Hopefully, they do not play a Hellmongrel. But if they do, that means they will not be able to block this tracker because it has Menace and they'll only have 1 untapped creature. Okay, they play a Scophos Reaver and they give it haste. That's kind of bad. We untap, Gargadon ticking down. We draw another island. So, play Foul Watcher, Surveil, Mountain into the Grave, play Mountain, Fire, kill Lashclaw, go to combat, hit them for 3. When it goes to 17, they untap. I might block this Scophos Reaver this turn, but our life total is still pretty high, so I don't feel the need to yet. They play a Lightning Spear. Okay, that makes my decision for me, and I will not be blocking. So take 5, go to 11. We untap. Gargadon comes down to 1. We get a Scuttletide. So I unfortunately cannot double spell this turn, but I will double spell next turn. I could play Scuttletide and discard an island to have a blocker that would block most of the damage. I think playing Gouged Zealot is better because it represents the most damage on like the critical turn. My opponent might sack Lightning Spear to have to kill it as well. Do I want to play out this island? I think so. Go to combat, attack for 4, take them to 13. Opponent untaps. I could potentially offer the trade here if they attack. That might force them to sack Lightning Spear to keep their guy alive, but then it loses trample and it won't deal damage to us for the turn. Then we would deal 12 on the swing back. But if my opponent attacks, they would probably end up using Lightning Spear to kill Gouged Zealot anyway. Unless they have other removal. Like if they have a land and an Unholy Heat, they might have to keep Scophos Reaver on defense. Because we will be swinging for a lot of damage. They might actually have to keep it back to trade with Gargadon, then untap and Lightning Spear the Zealot or something. Okay, they play another Lashclaw, and then they pass. Gargadon coming off suspend. We get a 7/5. Then we draw Hard Evidence. So, play Hard Evidence. counter on tracker, crack the clue, draw a card. We draw Flame Blitz, which will give us Delirium for 1 extra point of damage. Go to combat. Yeah, we swing out. Because if they want to kill Gargadon, they have to double block it, and 2 extra damage tramples over in that scenario. If they want to kill Arcbound Tracker, they have to double block it because it has Menace. They can single block the Gouged Zealot, but yeah, they just don't have anywhere to block. Alright, that worked out in our favor. I was a little worried after seeing the Scophos Reaver, but I guess it was a little unfounded. Cool. I don't think we make any adjustments. Let's just run it back. Alright, I do like this. We will keep. Opponent leads on a mountain. We draw another hard evidence. Make a crab. Pass the turn. We can surveil to try and find a land next turn. Opponent plays a Cabal Initiate. We draw Tracker. Play Watcher. Surveil. Land to the top. I know if I surveil that land away, even though it helps build Delirium, I would never draw another land. And that's just the way my luck works. Okay. So next turn we can play Tracker. The turn after we can play Hard Evidence and Flame Rift. To put another counter on Tracker, opponent Madness's Kitchen Imp, giving Initiate lifelink. They attack us for 2, that's fine. We untap, draw a mountain, play a mountain, play Tracker, go to combat, attack them for 1, because I don't think we'll be blocking anytime soon. Opponent Madness's Scophos Reaver. Well, I might be blocking sooner than I thought. They untap. And as long as they don't play and equip Lightning Spear, we'll throw the crab under the Reaver, because we're about to make another crab. They play a Swamp. They Unholy Heat the Tracker, which is pretty bad for us, because that removes any incentive to double spell. So my options are keep this alive and take 6, or take 4 and lose it. I think we'll take slightly more damage this turn to prevent slightly more damage later. Opponent plays a Lash Claw, we untap, we draw Gargadon, which is going to come down way too late this game. I am going to cycle Flame Blitz, because I kind of need to draw land. That gives me Delirium. Play another Hard Evidence. I guess we got to go on defense, pass the turn. I don't like it. Alright, opponent plays Mount Valus Manticore. I think the issue is we did not end up drawing enough lands for this hand. The other issue is we did not suspend Gargadon on turn 2. Alright, opponent discards a card that has 2 card types, and they're going to hit us for a lot. So block and block. Take 6 and go to 6. We untap. Yep, that's going to be game. Alright, moving on to game 3. Let's not do that again, shall we? Maybe I want the Wrath in this matchup. It kills Scophos. It kills every threat they played. Except Kitchen Imp. Oh, let's just run it back. Alright, we'll play first. I do like this. We will keep. Play a mountain. Play Dragon's Rage Channeler. Pass the turn. They play a mountain. If they have Unholy Heat, they should probably cast it now, because otherwise I get a Surveil trigger. If I wanted it, that is. Play a mountain, go to combat. Alright, well I'm not going to waste my Unholy Heat, I guess. So we lose Dragon's Rage Channeler, which was our only threat. Opponent untaps. If they play the discard outlet, either one actually, Cabal or Viashino Lashclaw, I will kill it. Alright, they play Gargadon, that's concerning. Cycle an enchantment, we draw Obsidian Charmaw. Play an island, pass the turn. So we're probably going to have to save this Unholy Heat for that Gargadon and focus on building Delirium until that point. Unless my opponent plays something that we absolutely cannot allow. Suspend second Gargadon. I see you too are a Magic player. of class. Play hard evidence. Crack a clue. We draw Gargadon, pass the turn. Gargadon's ticking down. I mean, if I suspend this Gargadon, it's not coming down until like turn 8. So at minimum, like 2 turns after my opponent's Gargadons. I think we have to play the Charmaw this turn, even though it destroys nothing. Pass the turn. Opponent ditches Scophos, Reaver makes a food. I mean, in theory, if we draw another land, we can play Gargadons about on par with when our opponent is. They untap. Gargadon's taken down to 2 and 1. If they attack with the Reaver, I can probably just chump with the Crab. I wouldn't trade, I don't think. Because I already have a creature in the grave. If I needed it for Delirium, I definitely would, because then I could Unholy Heat to kill a Gargadon. Yeah, I think we just chump. I need an instant, I think. Okay, well, Mountain at least means we can play Gargadon next turn. Go to combat. I'm taking 11 if I don't trade next turn, so I guess I have to trade. Alright. The problem with casting a Gargadon and blocking with it is it doesn't build Delirium, and I'm not Unholy Heating. Oh, don't tell me you have... Okay, well, I mean, that sucks a lot. Double Gargadon is really hard to beat, though. Because removal that actually kills it's kind of at a premium. Okay, opponent's going to start gaining life. Okay, Gargadon comes off suspend. Yeah, if our opponent did not have that Unholy Heat for our Dragon's Rage Channeler, we might have actually got somewhere this game, because we could have surveilled the stuff that mattered faster. If my opponent has removal now, I think we're just done. There's like no way we can come back. Alright, so we got a trade. We take 11. Opponent passes. We untap. We draw Lucid Dreams, which is a sorcery. Is there even anything I can draw? Because if I just play Gargadon now, it doesn't even save me. If I draw Island and Ice, I could Ice a Gargadon, Unholy Heat another Gargadon, maybe draw something to help deal with the board state and go to 5. Then if I draw another Unholy Heat, I could play at a land. I could play Gargadon, Unholy Heat their other Gargadon, and then have a creature bigger than Scophos Reaver. That is a very specific sequence of draws, but it does actually exist. So Lucid Dreams, draw 3 cards. We did not draw an island, but we did draw Fire and Ice. It doesn't actually matter, though, because we can't tap a Gargadon, and I miscounted mana, so... Maybe I was supposed to suspend my Gargadons, but it felt like they were going to come down too late otherwise. Because my Gargadon wouldn't come down until next turn. Based on the turn I calculated, it was going to come down the turn after this one did. So, yeah. Well, that really sucks, but our opponent's draw was pretty crazy. It's not that we didn't have answers, it's just we couldn't build Delirium for it, which kind of sucks. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 3. Alright, round 3, we got a Gargadon, we got an Unholy Heat, let's keep. Opponent plays Plains, passes. We draw a Tracker, play a Mountain, pass the turn, leave up Unholy Heat. Opponent plays a Swamp, passes. We untap, draw Scuttle Tide. Well, that doesn't change our play this turn. Suspend Gargadon, pass the turn. Opponent basic land cycles Landscaper Kolos. They untap. They play a Mountain. So my opponent might be playing the 5-color deck. We draw Gargadon. Or Gargadon takes down. We draw a Mountain. Excuse me. Play a Mountain. And I think I'm going to play a Tracker. Because next turn, if I play Tracker, let it resolve an Unholy Heat, I Anthem my guys. And I'm kind of expecting I might need to shock something. Opponent late to dinner is the Kolos. Okay. So Gargadon ticking down. We draw a Mountain. Play a Mountain. Go to combat. Attack for 2 with menace. Okay, opponent no blocks. They go to 18. Let's play an Amoeba. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Next turn I can double spell with the Tracker and Scuttletide. I'm not going to be blocking here. So opponent attacks for 4. They play a Goblin Trap Runner. Gargadon ticks down to 1. We draw Foul Watcher. So play a Mountain. Play Tracker. Shock the Trap Runner. Grow the Guys. Go to combat. Hit them for 5. I'm actually going to discard Scuttletide and get in for 7. Because that makes Gargadon way more relevant. It also gets an enchantment into the grave. Opponent plays an Ornithopter of Paradise. They're attacking? Okay. That must mean they have removal. I'm not going to block. Take 4 and go to 12. Red, white. Piercing Rays. They exile Tracker. We untap. Gargadon coming off suspend. We draw. Chef's Kiss. Play Foul Watcher. Counter on Tracker. Surveil. Dragon's Rage Channeler, I'll put in the grave. Go to combat. And I'm pretty sure this is lethal, no matter how they cut it. Yep. Alright. Well, that just felt absolutely dominating. 1 mana removal at instant speed in this format is just so good. I'll run it back. I don't really have any adjustments I feel like I need to make. We have Dragon's Rage Channeler into Suspend Gargadon. We can cycle Flame Blitz. Opponent plays Goldmire Bridge. We draw another Mountain. Play Darcy. Pass the turn. For those of you that don't know where that nickname comes from, it's because DRC, Dragon's Rage Channeler, Darcy. They play Ornithopter. We draw Mountain. Okay, well, at least we'll be casting Obsidian Charmaw this game at some point. Suspend Gargadon. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Plains. Turok's Canticle. So they can take Charmaw and make us discard at random. Odds are the discard's going to be land, and that's going to help build Delirium. Alternatively, they could take Flame Blitz and leave us with a creature, but... Alright. Well, we are now 3/4 of the way, or 2... Yeah, 3/4 of the way to Delirium here. Play a Mountain. Play Tracker. Go to combat. Get in for 1. We may not even need our second color of mana this game. Opponent goes to 19. They untap. 3 mana. 4 mana. 5 mana. No, I will not use Arcbound Tracker's ability. Okay, we got 3 card types in the grave. Gargadon ticking down to 2. We draw Amoeba. So cycle Flame Blitz. We get a Flame Rift. I don't think I want to cast Flame Rift yet. Pass the turn. So we got a little bit blown out by that Wrath. 6 mana. Opponent plays Landscaper Kolos. They put the land back in our deck. That is somewhat difficult for us to re-enable Delirium, although we don't have a sorcery in the grave, so it's not that bad. We draw a Mountain. I think I'm going to hold the Mountain in hand and just cast Flame Rift. Pass the turn. The Mountain I can use to re-enable Delirium off of Amoeba. I've got a feeling I might need to discard for something. 7 mana. Opponent has a Soul of Migration. That does make Gargadon a lot worse. They attack us for 4. They should, I think. Unless they're planning on trading the Kolos and a bird for the Gargadon, which is not wholly unreasonable. If they attack, they can't block enough to kill Gargadon. Okay. Gargadon comes off suspend. If we draw an Unholy Heat, my opponent is going to be very sad. We draw second Gargadon, so go to combat. Attack for 7. Opponent blocks and blocks and blocks. So they're trying to block around removal. I think that just unnecessarily means they lose a bird. Okay, well, it is unlikely that we draw enough lands right in a row to play Gargadon, and it would only come down one turn earlier. So suspend Gargadon. When it goes to combat, attacks for 3. You take 3 and go to 13. Untap. Gargadon ticking down. We draw Scuttletide. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They persist back the Kolos. Okay, that's pretty bad. They could put back enchantment or sorcery or artifact, so they put back the tracker. They hit us for 3, we go to 10. We untap, Gargadon ticks down to 2. We draw an island, play an island, play Aeromoeba, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Opponent has a Terminal Agony, which probably spells Doom for us. We take 6. We're going to 4. We can make 2 crabs, but we can only block 1 thing, which means we're taking 3 next turn minimum. And I don't think we'll be able to kill our opponent. So play Scuttletide. Pass the turn. We've already used Flame Rift, and that would kill us anyway. So discard Mountain. Block the Kolos with a crab. So we could deal 8 or 9 damage next turn. We have no way to gain life. Our only direct damage spell is Flame Rift. I don't think we have any combat tricks that pump power or toughness. We don't have any haste creatures because I took out the Arcbound Slasher. The Arcbound Slasher would not deal enough damage anyway. So I don't know what we could draw, but it doesn't involve, I don't think, discarding that crab. Cast Gargadon. We draw a Lightning Spear. I forgot about Lightning Spear. Does that make a difference? No. It can do up to 4 damage. So, like, had we discarded the island, made another crab, we could play it, equip it. Oh, we could only play it, equip it if we didn't discard for a crab. So we could do 9 damage, and then we could do 3 more, and that's not quite enough to kill our opponent. So the problem that game is we did not play Aeromoeba quick enough. It's possible our opponent just had that Terminal Agony sitting in hand all game, but if we'd been able to connect once with the Aeromoeba, we could have killed our opponent. That's a little unfortunate, but it's kind of just the way it is. My opponent's playing Reanimator, so maybe I want Spreading Insurrection. It seems like Landscaper Kolos is the biggest thing they're willing to reanimate, along with maybe the Soul of Migration? I'm worried about them having something bigger, but if they have a Sarah's Emissary, we haven't seen it. We have no way to deal with a Sarah's Emissary other than maybe like multiple Unholy Heats, because we have no unsummons. We could like Unholy Heat Lightning Spear. I'm thinking about bringing in Spreading Insurrection. The question is, what would I take out for it? And it's got to be some lower mana cost sorcery. It's probably Hard Evidence. Hard Evidence is really good. Maybe it's Scuttletide, because my opponent has a lot of flyers. I think we just have to bank on them not having a mythic. A particular mythic. The odds that they have a mythic is not that high, and the odds that they have a particular mythic is even lower. Okay, I will keep this. We will be playing Foul Watcher on turn 2, trying to surveil our way to a land. If we don't draw one, we can cycle Flame Blitz to try and find one. But we have both colors of mana. We can play everything in our hand, presuming we draw any lands. So, the lead on Mountain, Pump Fake, Unholy Heat. Opponent plays Plains, we untap. We draw Hard Evidence. Play an island. Play Foul Watcher. Foul Watcher number 2. I think it's got to go to the grave because we really need lands. Getting a creature into the grave early is also not bad for Delirium purposes, but... Okay, we untap. We draw an island. That's good. So go to combat. Attack for 1. Opponent takes 1, goes to 19. Play an island. Play Storm God's Oracle. I'm kind of saving the ability to double spell for in case we get an Arcbound tracker. On a basic land cycles, Landscaper, Kolos. They untap. They play a mountain. We untap. We draw a mountain. Play mountain. Go to combat. Attack, attack. I actually should have led on casting Hard Evidence, because if they have an Unholy Heat, and they can kill this Storm God's Oracle, that would build exactly Delirium? No, it wouldn't. Never mind. Okay, well. 3 damage to our opponent. It doesn't because we had a creature in the grave rather than anything else. Opponent basic land cycles, another Landscaper Kolos. We now have an enchantment in the grave, so Flame Blitz cycle is less important. I can either play out Scuttletide or I can cycle Flame Blitz. Hard Evidence, I think we cycle Flame Blitz because we do need to draw more cards. I could wait to do this at instant speed, but we get a Gargadon, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Swamp. They might be reanimating here. They play Trap Runner. Come on, Unholy Heat. Get a Gargadon. I think we just suspend Gargadon, and attack. If my opponent starts winning coin flips, we are going to be probably buried in 1/1s. But if we survive for 4 turns, we'll have so much trampling damage, odds our opponent will just die. If we draw an Arcbound Tracker, we can discard it to Mount Valus Minotaur. Or, I said it again, Mount Valus Manticore. There's nothing about that that's a Minotaur at all. I think just Mount Valus makes Manticore harder to say than Minotaur. I don't know why. Doesn't this make for each flip you win? Okay, so three tokens. Okay, so they exploit the token. We untap, ticks down, ticks down. We draw Lucid Dreams. So there's nothing worth pinging. Let's play Hard Evidence. I think we cycle and we keep Island because if we draw a mountain, then we can play Scuttletide. Dang it. All right, pass the turn. At least we have an answer for that Trap Runner, even if we do have to chump it this turn. That's a little bit of a problem if our opponent's reanimating a Kolos because they can keep us off Delirium. They won 2 flips that time. That's pretty bad. So take 7. Untap. Gargadon down to 2. Gargadon down to 2. We draw Mountain. So play Mountain. Play Manticore. Go to combat. Discard Lucid Dreams. Kill Goblin. If I Unholy Heat the Trap Runner, that stops the onslaught of 1/1s. But I have to chump the Kolos, and we're taking 6 and going to 2. We have no way to regain life. We're still 2 turns away from Gargageddon. I do not like this at all. I can trade with the Trap Runner, but it makes tapped attackers, and that could actually kill me. If I had Delirium, I could kill their Menace guy, and then everything would be a lot better. But Kolos happens to be Grave Hate stapled to a common that matters for Delirium purposes, so I'm going to make the play that lets me stay alive for exactly 0 turns because my opponent was able to tap. Oh, it was so close! I made one slight mistake, and that was playing the card in hand rather than trying to top deck the shock, but both of those games that we lost were winnable. I don't think I played that poorly. I definitely made a couple of mistakes, but this deck was really good. I think we got a little bit unlucky in some of our top decks, and the nature of Delirium in Limited is a little bit tough. But I could have made, I think, a couple of slight better picks in the actual draft portion. But all right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The last few times have been earlier than that. And yeah, you're all wonderful human beings. Thank you so much for watching. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of July. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate your support. And if you want to have your guys' names show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon in the description down below. Thank you all so much.